He gets like 30 seconds
Yeah.
out of the whole, which in, because ours, is it through the Y?
We play it right behind our house.
Oh, yeah.
pretty
So, because
nice.
ours we do it at the Rockwell YMCA. And decided to volunteer to coach for it for some reason. But they're like, it's a 20-minute game. It's 4 5-minute quarters. And usually by the halfway through the second quarter, all the kids are like, are we almost done?
Yeah. The part that sucks for us is I don't know why they don't practice during the week like at least once. Because you get there and
Yeah, we do 30-minute practice, 30-minute
their
game.
attention span's awful. So after 30-minute practice, they're ready to go.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, especially because it was originally supposed to be every Saturday morning, but apparently so many kids signed up they had to split it up, and some games are on Friday evenings at 5:30.
Oh, we don't have that problem.
And it's hard enough doing that on Saturday morning. Doing it at 5:30, I lose the kids 10 minutes into practice.
Yeah.
Where they're like I think there was at one point when during the practice portion where none of the kids were on the field. They were all like sitting with their parents, and I was just like, well, all right.
That's Jet.
Yeah, I know. I saw that video where he picked
ball.
up the ball and ran into the parking lot, and your dad is just dying. I was like, oh, Mark's having the time of his life.
Yeah, well, after that game, the coach asked me if he plays football. And I was like, nope.
Nope. If we're on a football field, he'd probably kick it.
Well, the last game, he literally followed me around for like 25 minutes, asking me if we can just go to see the sprint car.
Can we just go?
He said, can I just get a sprint car? So I don't think he's gonna be much of an athlete, which I'm fine with. Spent my whole life doing that, so
yeah.
I'll do whatever he wants to do, but it won't break my heart if he doesn't like love sports. Obviously, I want him to play them because I think it's good for him, be competitive and have a team and all that.
Like there's unless you're like bad at sports, I think you should play sports, especially for kids.
Yeah.
Now, I think a lot of problem with sports is kids do it. They do it too much.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you were like wild with baseball.
Yeah.
And there's even people I know that was even worse than you.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, how do you? Number one, I told Brooke, I said, I'm not doing that. It's like, I'm just not I'm not spending my life with it revolved around baseball or soccer or football. Football's not as bad as the other sports because you can't play as much.
Yeah.
But I always get so confused on this thing because it pops up and it says Justin Robison, but it's not you. It's the Instagram chat thing. And I'm like, why is Justin messaging me? And I was like, oh, that's not Justin. But yeah, it's wild. And then you wonder why. There are so many kids that I remember, even in football, where by the time they were juniors in high school, they were just so run down that they never wanted to play sports again.
Yeah.
And said, I didn't start football until my sophomore year of high school.
That's true. I forget you didn't really play sports growing up.
No, I said
Boy Scouts
it's mostly because my my parents just didn't have a lot of money, so I didn't have the opportunity to play a lot of sports. So I played like some rec sports and stuff like that, but it wasn't until I got into school and school sports, school athletics became a thing, or the ability for me to play in them became a thing. I said it started with basketball, and then when I got to high school, I realized that I was way too white for basketball. I was 6 foot and white, and that was a problem.
Yeah.
So I didn't make my basketball team, but I was pretty good at football. So I didn't start football until my sophomore year. So I didn't start getting good at football until I got to college, actually.
Yeah, the Caleb I remember wore skinny jeans and was a skateboarder.
I still wear. Actually, no, I don't wear skinny jeans anymore. They're so uncomfortable.
You went through a real big skateboarder stage from like 4th grade to.
And I still kind of and I still kind of very similar. I still listen to a lot of the same music. I don't wear as tight clothes now. I wear more baggy clothes.
No, I was telling Cambry the other day. I don't know if you
style.
I don't know if you remember this. I was telling her I think I remember you didn't play a lot of sports growing up,
Yeah.
but when you did, you played at we had a church league here. Do you remember that? One year we did soccer and basketball.
Yeah.
And then they never did it
With the
again.
green team.
Yeah, we were the green team.
Yeah. That's why Sam's team,
Yeah.
I got to choose it. So we're a green team. And he has the number I had.
Yeah. But we did it 1 year. They had like 4 courts out here.
Yeah.
And then we never did it again.
Never did.
But I remember me and you were playing on the same soccer team and
Yep.
basketball
And
team.
I remember I hated playing goalie because it was so boring.
I remember you being goalie. That's
I
funny.
hate that because they switched us all around because my mom was the coach. But I hated playing goalie. I remember, like, the only thing I remember specifically, because it was me, you, and Sarah Thomas.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody else on every other team had no athletic ability. And my mom actually played soccer and actually coached us.
I didn't know
So
that.
I remember, like, we dominated. Like, I think we won every game by like 5-1.
Yeah.
And that was when we were like 3 years old.
Yeah, there's very, very few memories that I can remember like distinctively, and it's that, and then me and you constantly going at it in the paper plate game.
Oh, yeah, the
That was
paper
the
play game.
most elite game of all time.
Well, so when me and Brooke took over doing the kids ministry a couple years ago, I brought back all those games.
Yeah.
The paper plate game. What was the other one? Remember we would do the dance offs.
Mm-hmm.
I would brought that, taught the kids how to do the worm because I was like, anybody know how to do the worm? And they were like, what? And I was like, so when I was in kids church during worship, we would do the worm down the middle of the aisle to the worship song.
I remember that. I still to this day, if there was a record book, I think I'd be the number 1 winner of the paper plate game.
That would
They
be
get
intense.
But I made sure that I was getting picked for that game every
Oh, yeah.
Sunday. That and then during what's it called? Vacation Bible School, we played it a lot.
Yeah.
And that's when I won the Xbox 360.
Yeah. Now I always talk about it with Pastor Ryan. It's funny because especially now I'm like looking back on it and stuff like that. Well, especially because when we were doing the kids ministry, so obviously Pastor Ryan was the one who hired us, who was our kids pastor, and then a lot of the youth leaders were kids that were in kids church when I was a youth leader, and Jeff and Chandra were the kids pastors, and now a lot of those kids that were in kids when we were the kids pastors are now in youth, which we help with, and a lot of
That's
those
really
youth
cool.
leaders are now in young adults, which we're now over young adults. It's like it's kind of like, all right, well, I guess we're just stuck with all y'all.
Yeah, no, it's a full circle.
I said it just keeps going, and then I guess I think we talked about it actually the last time, but it's like going into the nursery, it's like when Jet's in there, and then like you have Jude and Sam and even Kaysen, which is technically Christian's nephew, but it's like watching, I'm like, geez, this is like,
it's weird,
history repeating itself, and they all act like us. Like they all act like this, which is wild. And it's funny because a lot of times a lot of them back there are like, oh, they're just so rough with her. I'm like, yeah.
No, it doesn't.
I was like, if nothing's broken and they're fighting each other, I'd just leave it.
It's true. So we'll go ahead and just kick into the segment today. Caleb actually wanted to talk about the importance of physical and mental health, and kind of like why us as, I guess, grown men and adults should put their physical, mainly physical. I think everybody agrees mental health is very important and you should take care of yourself mentally. But why is it important for the physical part, and why should we focus on it?
Well, number one, the physical, mental, and spiritual health of a person, you cannot neglect one and have success in the other. I can't think of a circumstance where, and I've thought about it because I don't like to make statements, absolute statements, unless I've thought about how possible it could be. And I cannot think of a circumstance where you can have, you can be weak physically, but be strong mentally, unless there's like a disability involved. But even then, you should still pursue being the strongest that you can be with, obviously, like if you don't have any legs, you're not going to be running a 5-minute mile.
Does that disability include laziness, like me?
No, that's stupidity, not disability. No, but laziness is number one, is the hardest one to overcome. That's the number one thing that plagues not just men, but the world as a whole, especially Western culture, because a lot of times we try to divorce the physical health from the mental health. And when you talk about like mental health, specifically in men, because I know I heard it on Chris Williamson's podcast, but I don't remember where he heard this study from. But it comes out of World War II that a lot of times clinically, psychiatrists, psychologists, therapists, they treat male depression the same as female depression.
Yeah.
And with female depression, you treat it by helping the woman realize and recognize her own worth and validate that on a foundational level internally instead of trying to draw it in externally. But that, while that may work temporarily for a man, because everybody likes to feel good and everybody likes to be told that they should feel good about themselves, men find purpose in the pursuit of their, or like I said, men, the reason why they feel depressed is because they feel hopeless.
Yeah.
And they feel hopeless because they're not pursuing a purpose. He said, I know that I have found that if I've been struggling mentally, I can always look and say that I haven't been consistent with my workouts, if I've done them at all. I've been eating terribly. I haven't been praying. I haven't been reading my Bible. I haven't been, and number one, like praying and reading your Bible, like the past couple of months have been really tumultuous in my own life. Where I'm really, I know we talked about it at lunch yesterday.
Yeah.
Where I just kind of reached the point where I realized I was pushing so hard and striving for so many things that I got lost in the fact that I wasn't doing it out of pursuit of purpose anymore. I was trying to accomplish these things because I was like, if I do this race, or if I make this much money, or if I have this car, or if I succeed in this way, then once I do that, I'll be happy, or feel happy. Yeah. I'll feel satisfied. I'll feel accomplished. I won't feel like a loser or the imposter syndrome. And then it happens, and then it's not even that I would feel better for a little bit. No, it's like I would almost feel worse. And it came to a point where I realized how bad it was a couple weeks ago. I ran a half marathon on 3 days notice. 3 days, not 2, 3.
Sounds awful.
Well, my wife, we had signed up for a half marathon that was like 6 months ago, and it rained. So they rescheduled it for, I think it was in like the beginning of September. And we were going to do it until we realized that it fell on a day that Sam had a soccer game. And it started, like the race started at 7 and Sam's soccer game was at 8. And we're like, well, we're not going to be able to do it. And we were at Firewell, actually. We went to go to Barnes & Noble or something. And they had a sign for the first annual Firewell half marathon. And this was on a Sunday, and that was
Friday.
It said it was on the next Sunday, so it was a week. So I guess it was, and I was like, oh, we can do that. And so we signed up for it on Thursday, and the race was on Sunday morning. And I had, a couple years ago, made a goal, like eventually. I hadn't been training for it specifically, but just in the training for other things, had apparently reached the level that I could accomplish the goal of running a sub 2 hour half marathon, which isn't like particularly fast, but it's I would say it's right above average. Like I would say it's like right above an average finishing time. Yeah. But I just was like, oh yeah, eventually that'd be cool to do a sub 2 hour marathon, especially, or half marathon, because my last marathon that I attempted that I got sick and threw up on the course was, I attempted to run a sub 4 hour, which would be obviously two sub 2 hour half marathons. So I was like, you know what? I originally was just going to do it to run with my wife because she was actually the one that wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, sure, yeah, I'll run it with you. Until I realized it was a looped course, meaning that it was just a 3 mile loop that you did 4 times or something like that.
Was it in Firewheel Mall?
Yeah, it was just around pretty much the whole thing.
Gotcha.
And so I was like, well, since it's a loop, I'll still be able to see her and, help her, but I can run at my pace versus her pace.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I told her, I was like, hey, I'm going to try to race it and just see what happens. And anyways, the race it sucked. It was so terribly put together. Like the people that had put it together, I don't think had ever actually run a race before in their life. Like not just run in terms of being in charge, but like attempted or participated in any type of race. Cause I'm like, do you have any idea what you're doing here? But, and so the course and everything, it was crap. And anyways, they were supposed to have these bathrooms unlocked, but they weren't. And they said, hey, we have a security guy coming to unlock the bathrooms. So we're going to postpone the start of the race. Well, we were waiting for the security guy and he was taking forever. We're like, well, they said they're going to start in like 2 minutes from now. So we'll go ahead and go back. Well, they didn't. Pause. So they had already started, which wasn't necessarily a big deal because it's done off your chip time. So when you cross the reader, but like everybody else had already started like 3 or 4 minutes ago. So it's hard to gauge
a pace
like what you're doing compared to other people. So I was like, I'll just go out there and see what happens. And then, so like I said, it was 4 loops, and what I thought. So apparently, I had miscounted, and I thought I had just done my first loop. And when I had done it, I said, hey, did they ever get the bathrooms open? And they were like, yeah. So I sprinted. It was like half a mile off course though. So I like sprinted to the bathroom, went to the bathroom, sprinted back on the course. And I was just like, oh, whatever, we'll just keep going and see what happens. But apparently I thought I had only done 1 lap, but I had done 2. So I ended up doing 5. So I ended up actually running like 14 something miles, but
that sounds terrible.
But the course ended up being short. It ended up actually the course only was 12.4 miles instead of 13.1, and I ran 14.4 or something like that.
Yeah.
It was a mess. Like I said, it was a mess. But I hit my sub 2 hour on the race, even though technically I hit like 2:15. Well, it was 2:15 for the 14.4, which would have been like 2:04 for the 13.1, but my race time was 1:53.
Yeah.
So I was like, I even on Instagram was like, did I get it? But long story, not short. All that being said, I went through all that, and so I just very nonchalantly, without really trying, hit a goal that I had been working for a couple years, and I ended up winning first place in my age division and stuff like that, and so I got a medal and it was cool. But I remember like I was like, oh cool, and then the next day I was just like so depressed. I'm like, why? And it's not unusual to get what they call it the post race blues, because
I get that. That's how I feel after I get home from racing.
You get that, like, well, it's like especially like in guys, because our dopamine levels go up and down so much. So it just like the dopamine crashes because you just spent an entire day with just such elevated dopamine levels. Yeah. But it wasn't like that. It was like an actual, like, I'm like, ugh. I was like, well, who cares? So what does it even matter? It's pointless. It's worthless, all that stuff. And I realized, why am I doing all this? Why am I pushing so hard for these things that I get them, and here I am still stuck with the same problems?
Yeah, no, I get that. And it brings you to kind of what I was talking about with you yesterday and a few others. We start trying to make opportunity happen instead of letting opportunity come to us.
Yeah.
And we get this sense of pride where we have to make it happen or it won't.
Mm-hmm.
And I've just come to the conclusion in my life where I'm just chasing peace.
Yeah.
And I have found that where you find peace the most is when you're living in purpose, and our purpose is to chase God, chase
Yeah.
God only, chase God first, and the rest follows. And when you finally just feel that and feel that like the pressure and release come off you,
Yeah.
it's like, man, I have clarity. I can actually think straight. I'm not just digging and getting exhausted. Like I'm finding that peace in my life and realizing there's more important things in the world than being a man and I'm gonna win this, I'm gonna do that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go. But really the Lord wants us to sit back, relax, and have
Yeah.
peace and know that if there's a will, there's a way, and He's gonna be the one that opens doors, not us.
Yeah.
It's not in man's will to create opportunity. And the Lord is gonna bless His people. But we
Yeah.
gotta keep our eyes on Him and not on earthly things. So yeah, I mean, it goes to show you that the one race you weren't all worried about, you broke your record too.
Mhm.
So like it shows you if you put in the work and you do your diligence, you read your Bible, you stay in the Word, you chase after Him, opportunities happen, or you hit your goals in your marathon. So like
Yeah.
the less we try, the more He'll do.
Yeah.
If we don't give Him the keys, He ain't gonna do nothing.
Well, and that's when I realized I was pushing and striving and doing so much because I was trying to reach a level, and like none of the things I was doing were like bad or unhealthy, but I was pursuing them for I would say unhealthy,
Reasons.
immature reasons. And I realized, and to tie it back into your physical, mental, spiritual health, is I realized I was pursuing these physical achievements to try to achieve a mental significance, while I was ignoring the spiritual discipline that was required to actually get what I was looking for. And I was pushing so hard and trying to do so much, because I had this belief, this mental belief, or as my therapist would call it, a core belief that like, and I feel like most men, like number one, like your value is based off of what you can achieve.
Yeah.
Your worth is based off of what you can provide.
Yeah.
If you're not perfect, you can't be loved. And all which, and the tricky thing with a lot of those things is there's an ounce of truth to it. Is to where, as a man, you are created and called to, provide and secure and do all those things.
Correct, but your net worth is not your self-worth.
But you don't drive your worth from those. Yeah. It's actually those are the and I'll sum it up this way is you realize that I had built my life on the pursuit of the happiness when I needed to stop, reevaluate, and kind of course correct to where then instead of building a life on the pursuit of happiness, I was building a life on building a life that produces happiness.
Yeah. Because
happiness and a lot of those things are just an emotional reaction. Now, it's like you don't want to pursue an emotional reaction because number one, emotions are very fleeting. Because what makes you happy one second will be gone the next, and that's how you find people who that's the crisis with consumerism is you get the car and then 6 months later the car's old.
I mean, and the Bible has
old.
The Bible
there's
has
a new
stories
one.
like that. I mean, Samson.
Yeah.
Literally was chasing after one feeling.
Yeah.
And it affected his whole rest of his life.
Yeah, you chase those emotions, you make emotional decisions, and you end up in places where you shouldn't be. But the great thing about that, and if you're listening to this and you find yourself, you're like, well, I'm not physically healthy, I'm not mentally healthy, and I'm definitely not spiritually healthy, and I have made all these decisions, I've chased all these things, I'm stuck in this rut, I'm fallen in this pit. The best thing I can tell you is that that's a perfect place to start. talking about, there's Samson. Now, Samson's redemption arc is a little bit more final because he died in his redemption arc when he said, Lord, give me strength one last time. And he tore down the pillars of the temple that destroyed the Philistines. Not the Philistines. No. Who was he with? I don't remember. But there's also the story of Moses. It said the whole reason Moses ended up in the desert was because he murdered somebody. Yeah. Because out of an emotional reaction. Not because, God told him to murder somebody or something like that. No, he murdered somebody out of an emotional reaction, ended up in the desert hiding from what he had done. And that's where God found him, was in the pit. Yeah. And then God revealed himself to Moses and said, okay, I'm going to use you to do this. He did the same thing with Abraham. He did the same thing with David. These imperfect people that when they found themselves in a pit of their own doing, God would come to them and say, okay, are you ready now?
Yeah, they had to step out of their flesh. Yeah. I mean, when you're living in flesh, you're not going to hear the word. You're not going to hear the wisdom of the Lord. You're not going to hear the Holy Spirit. You're going to react strictly based off your emotions and how you want to act in the flesh. Yeah. Whether that's killing someone like Moses or us nowadays just deciding, hey, do I want to sleep in or do I need to wake up a little earlier, read my word, and prepare myself for the day? Yeah. That's one of my biggest struggles is getting up and planting myself in the word because I already don't enjoy reading. And so if I'm tired and have to read, it's not a good combination. Yeah. But, I mean, I like to think that those small wins, just getting myself out of bed and reading the word is like telling my flesh, hey, you're dying to me today. Like, I'm not going to let my flesh take over. I'm not going to let my mind think about my earthly or worldly decisions or reactions, but let the Spirit control me, the Spirit lead me, the Spirit give me strength. And I think that's where your mental fortitude comes through with your physical attributes is, and same thing working out, like your mind has to shut off, like, because our body can only go so far, but if you tell your mind, hey, one more mile, one more rep.
But, and your mind will give up long before your body will. Yep. And that's why I said the most powerful tool when it comes to your physical health is your mental health. Yeah. Because your physical health is so dependent on your mental health. Like case in point, this morning, said I met Robert Thiemann. He's been running with me. I said I met him at we were originally supposed to meet a little bit earlier.
I was gonna ask you where y'all ran, but then I was like, I feel convicted.
We're at Kane Middle School.
I'll be like, I want to go next time.
Yeah, Kane Middle School.
I won't show up.
So. Well, so we run like through downtown Rockwall, like Harry Myers and stuff like that. But we met at Kane Middle School because we were going to do a track workout. But last night, Sam decided he didn't want to fall asleep till like 11:30, and he has to lay with me until he falls asleep or he won't fall asleep. And so I didn't get to bed until almost midnight. And then Sam woke up at 4 and came in our bed and didn't fall back asleep until like 4:40. And so
that sounds awful.
I was like, but I was just like, I was like, I don't want to. I was tired, and they were valid excuses. I was tired, had a late night, was going to have a long day. I worked out yesterday evening versus the morning, so I was sore, a little bit more sore than I would want to be. I didn't drink enough water. All these valid excuses because I said they weren't lies. They were true things. But
I've gotten to the point now where I listen to my truths. I'm like, I'm gonna go to sleep.
Yeah. Well, and that's the benefit of like having someone that you're meeting.
Yeah.
So it was all the excuses to not go. I didn't want to. I was laying on the floor of my closet, and I was like, I don't want to go. And I'm like, I don't feel good. We were meeting at the track because we were going to do a fast, like a speed workout, and I was like, I just don't feel good. I'm probably not going to be able to hit my paces because I didn't drink enough water, so I'm be dehydrated. All these sort of things. And I just finally was like, all right, get up.
Yeah.
So I got up, put my clothes on, went, and we did it. And it actually ended up, it sucked. Absolutely sucked. I hit all the paces.
What time is
Thought I was
this?
gonna die. I got there like right before 5 a.m.
And you're living over here now?
No, we lived in
You
Rockville.
still live over there?
Yeah. So it's like 4 minutes from my house, so it wasn't far.
But yeah, so what time do you leave for? How do you make time for all this?
Get up at 4 in the morning.
Yeah, what time do you leave for work?
So I have to be done with my run by 6, so I can be back home by about 6:10, 6:15, depending on where we're running from. So depending on what the distance is or what we have doing, we either start at 5, 4:45, or 4:30.
Jeez, what time you go to bed? Like typically.
I would like to go to bed at 9:30 ish, but
Yeah,
sometimes, most of the time, it usually ends up being about 11:30.
That's me.
At 11:30, I would say probably 10:30 to 11 on average. But like I said, every once in a while I get one where like Sam is like, I'm not sleeping, and he'll stay up till midnight.
Or I text you because I didn't realize you go to bed that early.
Oh yeah. Well, I said
My bad.
and I'm like, well, I was like, I put my phone on sleep
I'm a
mode.
night owl, dude.
I was like, I put my phone on sleep mode. Well, it's like I used to be that way. I used to be able to. I would go to bed at like 1 in the morning and wake up at 5, like every day with no problem.
Terrible
But I
for your
can't do that
mental
anymore.
health.
I was like, I can't. I just like my body will not let me do that anymore. I'm sometimes surprised it still lets me do this.
Well, there's a book you need to read. It's called Why We Sleep.
Oh yeah.
I used to think sleep was like the biggest myth ever. And once you read it and you start tracking your sleep, like I have a Whoop. I took it off. I need to put it back on, but
Well, so my watch does all that, and
sleep's important.
yeah. I said even if like because I have a lot of it where like you would say your sleep was short, but it was effective.
Yeah.
It'll give me like a 80 out of 100 or something like that. But then there's times where I'll sleep 8 hours and it'll be like non-restorative. Try again. That sleep sucked. I'm like, but I slept the whole 8 hours.
Yeah,
But
it's weird, man.
It just depends. And there's so much like that goes on with your sleep. And that, like I said, it said what you eat, what you think, what you do, and how you feel, all like there's no way to separate those things.
I mean, it also helps you don't drink.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
You don't wake up sluggish.
And honestly, that's one of the reasons. Like, I even a lot of times, like, I don't eat a lot of certain foods anymore because I know, like, I don't want to feel this way later.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I still drink a little bit, and I can always tell the nights where I had like a glass or two of whiskey, and the nights I didn't. I wake up, I'm like, God, I feel terrible. Why did I do this?
Yeah, well, it's good. I mean, it's literally a poison.
Yeah, it really is.
It's
like I wake up instantly, like, man, I tell them, why did I do this to myself?
Yeah, it's like it never, there's no benefit to it. And that comes from
decisions.
Well, and I talk about it, because especially like with drinking, because like I don't think it's a sin to like if you like, oh, we had a glass of wine at dinner, like, but now obviously it's one of those things where it's like it's like, why play with fire?
Yeah.
But and the only reason I say why play with fire is because when I decided to just really stop drinking, because I said I never once I got out of college, I never got heavy into drinking ever again. But even like I would, like if we'd go on vacation or something like that. But a couple years ago, I was reading through Proverbs. Talk about reading your Bible every day.
Proverb a day.
Proverb a day. And if you don't like reading, on Spotify, Apple Music, they have so many audio. Like there's one called Streetlights where they and I know they have Proverbs because I listen to it, but they do a lot, and I think they have most of the Gospels done too, where it's an audio Bible, but it has like some like music and stuff to it. And there's like a cadence, so it's not just like a dry like chapter 1.
Yeah, that's where
in the beginning, like it, to where you can listen to it,
Yeah.
and it has a little bit of a groove to it, so it helps kind of flow better in your mind. And obviously, it's not as at least for like memory's sake and stuff like that, because you can get distracted and not listen to it. But like I'll listen to the proverb of the day like 3 or 4 times on my way to work or something like that, because it only takes like 4 minutes to listen to it all the way through. And then, I try to pick one or two that I'm like, okay, let me think on that today, because that is something that applies to me right now. Because there's a lot of stuff you'll read that won't apply to you now, but you read it once, you read it twice, you read it the third time, and then a couple of weeks, months, years down the road, you're going through something and you go, wait. Yeah, I've heard of this before.
Well, that's what blows my mind. I'll read stuff in the Word. I'm like, I swear I've never heard this before.
Oh yeah,
I've read the Bible. Well,
there's times I'm like, I know I've read this chapter.
Yeah.
And when Pastor Wally spoke on Wednesday, he spoke on something where I'm like, has that always been in there? I'm like, and I've read this chapter. I know I have, because I've preached off of the verse like 4 or 5 verses before.
Yeah.
I was like, but it says that, and it's something where like you hear it and it's so like profound, like shapes it reshapes how you view things, and you're like, am I dumb? Well, I don't know, but what was I going with that? Time and stuff like that. Is number one is, there's a quote said, if it's important to you, you'll make time. Said that's, I don't know who said that.
Yeah,
I've heard it from every person I've ever looked up to, though. I've heard them say that.
That's been my biggest struggle. So this is where I've unplugged.
Mm-hmm.
My whole life I worked out to be good at baseball. We've had this conversation. Now I can literally look you in the eyes and tell you, like, working out is not important to me.
Yeah.
But where I'm trying to get my mind rewired, because I know what is important to me,
benefits what is.
It benefits my family.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see Jets
your racing.
Kids. It does benefit my racing to a point, but then I see
guys not like being like a jack.
I see guys way fatter than me beat me. I'm like, y'all have been telling me it's my weight. I lost all my weight. I don't know, because I've lost 40 pounds.
Yeah.
But now I'm trying to rewire to where I want to see Jets kids. I want to see Kenzie's kids.
Yeah.
I want to see Kenzie get married. I want to see Oakley get married, and I'm slowly trying to get those cobwebs out of my head, saying working out sucks.
Well, it
I haven't gotten there yet, but I'm at least getting to the point where I'm trying to find why it's important.
And well, it's like, and a lot of it is, it's like, well, and a lot of it. So, if you want to, let's get into some meat. Here's a couple things if you're wanting to shift.
We're definitely gonna have to make this a part 2.
Yeah, begin to
series,
pursue, physical excellence, mental, betterment, and spiritual growth is. First is you need to have a mind shift. Mind shift. Sorry, my lisp's stuck out there. Mind shift change, because just like, I try to rewire to not tell myself it sucks. No, the problem is it does suck.
Yeah.
But especially in the social media, the whole world at our fingertips, age that we live in is. There's no, is that we've gone from pursuing purpose to pursuing pleasure, pursuing happiness, pursuing that thing that's, it's like because everything is so easy now, when something isn't easy, we automatically think it's wrong. Mm-hmm. Because like even, every business, every person, everything is all about making things easier.
Yeah.
Which to an extent, like is, you want to make things as accessible and as, easy as
but worth easy isn't worth having.
But it said, but in terms of like long-term significance, is anything, anything that's, worth having will never be easy to obtain.
Yeah.
But it's because we're wired, especially as men, we're wired to put in the work to receive a reward. And a lot of times that's the trap that pornography gets you in, social media gets you in, all these sort of things get you in, is you get the reward without the work.
Yeah.
And when you get the reward without the work, then you're not chasing your purpose, because your purpose is the work.
Yeah.
Your purpose, our purpose is not to go to heaven. Now, our place is in heaven, but our purpose is not to go to heaven. Our purpose is to create disciples while we're here on earth. That is our purpose in the pursuit of the goal of heaven.
Yeah.
And so our purpose is not to, my purpose is not to try to lose weight, be big and strong, run fast, win races, do all these things. My purpose is to better myself for my wife and my child, and also so I can help other men pursue the betterment of themselves in order to create a better world.
Yeah.
And then I also get to feel better about myself, look better, have success and achievement as a thing that purpose produces. But that's not the purpose of them, because what happens when those things don't happen? Are you going to give up? Are you going to be like, well, it's stupid? Because the Army has a saying where they say, embrace the suck.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was doing my
Cowboys fans say that too.
Yeah, they said, yeah, and then right now the Packers fans are saying it. It's like, oh man, I guess we'll just have to embrace the suck now. Yeah, you thought you were just gonna go Favre, Rodgers, Jordan Love.
He's coming back. He'll be good.
I don't know. He's not gonna be. No one's gonna be Aaron Rodgers.
I think he'll be better than Rodgers.
I think Aaron Rodgers is the most talented quarterback to ever play.
I'm glad you said that, because I agree with that all the time. People laugh at me.
He's the most physically gifted quarterback to ever play the game. Brady may be the most decorated and most winningest quarterback, but like there is nobody who is just more gifted at playing quarterback than Aaron Rodgers.
40 years old.
Well, and just there's throws he makes where I'm like, I've never seen anybody make a throw like that with the ease that he does it. And consistency that he does it. But that's not what we're talking about here.
Sorry, I'm very good at getting people off topic.
I'm not a Packers fan. But honestly, though, it's funny because I know, and it's funny because of even though there's not really rivalry, the only rivalry is because of that game. Yeah. But if I wasn't a Cowboys fan, I would have probably been a Packers fan. Number one, because Brett Favre was my favorite quarterback growing up.
Right. Yeah, embrace the suck.
But yeah, embrace the suck, because you have to realize that, that mind shift has to come where you're not trying to make yourself like it, but you have to begin to realize that I have to go through these to get to where I want to go. Yeah. Even in the Bible, there is, when the children of Israel leave Egypt, they have to go through the desert before they get to the promised land. When Jesus is wanting to, when God is wanting to reconcile the world to him, Jesus has to walk and be spit upon and be killed on a cross so that then we can join him in paradise. Like there is going to be a war, a battle, a choice that you're going to have to go through before you can get the reward or the pleasure at the end. Yeah. We try to bypass that, or we try to trick our mind into thinking like it's wrong, or we're wrong because we don't like it. Well, actually, you're not supposed to like it in terms of like I don't like the pain and struggle of running, but I love the feeling once I do it. And I'm like, I remember before this run, I sat there and I said, I don't want to do it. And I did it. Yeah. And now I can say I'm done. Because I remember when I sat there, when I made the choice to be lazy, when I made the choice to, take the easy road or to make the wrong choice. Yeah. And I remember how it felt when I looked back and said, I wish I would have. And now I don't have to say I wish I would have.
No, I think that's awesome.
And that's where number one, that's a spiritual principle, that's a physical principle, and a mental principle. So I say you can't do one without the other. Yeah. It's the same thing with reading your Bible. You never read your Bible and then go, oh, I wish I wouldn't have read my Bible. No, exactly. You never make wise, good decisions, or and go, oh, I wish I wouldn't have done that. Yeah. You never do the hard thing that what is it? You get to choose your hard. It's hard to be fat. It's also hard to be skinny. But being fat is hard. Easy now, hard later. Being skinny is hard now, easy later. Not skinny, healthy. Because you can be skinny and not be healthy. No, I agree. It's like you can be broke. It's hard to be broke. It's hard to be rich. But one is easy now, hard later. The one was hard now, easy later. Always choose the hard now. I actually saw this quote by Jordan Peterson today. And it says, it's always better to attack the dragon in his lair before it lays waste to the town. So don't put off what you can attack today when later you'll be scrambling to try to fight it later while it's destroying everything around you.
No, I love that. And I think that's a perfect ending for this.
Yeah.
We'll definitely have to have a part 2 because I think we have a lot to talk about here.
Yeah, my wife's calling
And
me.
what we can bring into this. So
She's like, you said it's only going to take 45 minutes. I'm like, I talk forever.
yeah, it wasn't
It's
me.
my
Brooke.
fault. No, it's always my fault.
No, I appreciate you coming on. Zane's on his honeymoon, so I need
Yeah,
somebody
he
to-
is.
My wife's been on me about getting more content. So
I hope he's not watching this.
Yeah, he better not be. But
Said he's doing his honeymoon wrong. Where'd they go?
St. Lucia. So I think they get back tomorrow.
We
so.
went to the Grand Canyon, and it was not romantic, but it was beautiful. But
Yeah,
it was
there's
not
not
romantic.
much there though.
But we went hike to the Grand Canyon.
Yeah, I'm not a hiker.
It was the hardest thing I've run 54 miles through the mountains in Utah, and hiking the Grand Canyon for 2 days was the hardest thing I've
I
ever
hiked
done.
it for a little bit. Me and Jonas. That's about it.
Dude, we did the whole bottom to top. It was 29 miles in 2 days, and it was the worst. It was 140 degrees in the canyon.
Yeah, it's
because we did
terrible.
it in July. Yeah, don't do it.
No, thank you.
Go in November. Do it in November when it's 80.
Yeah.
But
Well, like always, thank you for tuning in to the Thrive Podcast. Go ahead and check out our merch at thrivemedia.shop.
Get
this
that
nice
polo.
Get the Fittest Dad
T-shirt, hoodies,
hoodie, and all the other
Get
shows.
cups, or
And
whatever you want to call them.
There's a lot more coming from Thrive Media, so stay tuned. See you next time.
Peace.